Greetings. You join me today in a Rover 75 2-litre CDTI paired to the automatic 5-speed ZF gearbox. I think that is a good start for any video. So I wanted to do a video on this car for a long time. This is my main daily driver. Unlike the MG, which is nice to enjoy every so often, this is the thing that I genuinely drive every day. Well, I was driving every day, but here we are. This car is probably one of the most significant cars in British history, for many reasons, I think. I'm an avid Rover fan, obviously, MG Rover fan, so it makes no difference to me whatsoever. People are going to say, oh, it's a very biased opinion you have here because you like the car, etc. You drive this every day. And I'm going to say, yes, I enjoy the car, but there are elements that I absolutely despise with this car. For me, this car was designed to try and save Rover. Obviously, the history behind it, BMW were balls deep and saying, let's do this. We can firmly make a car, a great British car that everyone's going to enjoy, want to be in, and most importantly, we're going to save the Rover brand. We're going to make something good of British motors. And that was a fair attempt, to be honest. Sure, it came with its issues, its troubles, its quibbles. Mainly in 1997, I believe, the BMW director at the time was just saying, you know, Rover's this, Rover that, you know, they're not going to make it in time. We ain't going to fund this no more, laddies, so good luck. Bit of a kick in the balls, really, isn't it? I mean, here's for once in a lifetime in history, the Germans and the Brits are finally able to work together and ally up to try and make something good. And there's the Germans stabbing you in the back. Fantastic. But actually, in all seriousness, I think I know what BMW were trying to get at with this car. It wasn't about getting a market in Britain, because they already had a market in Britain. They were doing well. They sold many BMWs at that time, the 3 Series, the 5 Series, etc. So it's not like that they needed something else. My main goal, I think BMW's main goal in all of this was to actually take Rover's main assets, Mini and Land Rover. Rover of that era with BMW, I think, felt inspired and felt ready to actually develop and design some really cool, innovative products, some really great cars. I mean, they designed that BMW Mini. It's just an absolute shame that it ended the way it had to end. I've been thinking about this and thinking about the design of the car, and actually how I think it's one of the most timeless designs of its era. I know this car gets pitted against the S-Type, and while I believe the S-Type's a really nice car, I think it's really well made, etc., I don't think its styling is aged as well as this 75. I think this 75 looks classic and elegant, but of its time. Sure, reviewers and journalists raved about how good this car was, about how enjoyable, how drivable this thing was. But the problem that they had was the inside felt a bit outdated, a bit out of place, that they were trying to be too classic without being modern and gripping. And I hate to say it, but I think they were wrong. don't get me wrong, I think this is a wonderful car. I think it drives incredibly well, it's smooth. The diesel engine in this car is a little bit unrefined, but the 2.5 litre V6 really makes up for that. So, really, this car has a lot to offer then, right? Yes, absolutely. I think especially in today's market, this has so much to offer because, let's be honest, not only are these cars aging classics, and it's something different from the PCP boredom of today, this era of just renting cars and getting the newest and the greatest, and it's all boring because everyone has the same car. This is different. It makes you feel special to drive it. You want to get in this car and do a long journey. I drive this car nearly 80 miles, 90 miles a day I was anyway, before the whole coronavirus thing. And I loved it, every minute of it. Sitting at 70 miles an hour, sitting at 70 miles an hour. You know, you got that real sense of being able to just sit there and let this big car waft you around, and it's not that big either. It's in between a 3 Series and a 5 Series, and BMW actually kind of called this the British 4 Series. I think there's a lot of redeeming values in this car, and I think it's something that's truly enjoyable to drive. You know, there's nothing here that I would say, oh, what a waste of time. And it's such a shame that this is all that Rover had left. Sure, when they got some extra funding, they brought out the Tourer, and I love the Tourer. BMW were absolutely against it, but I loved it. I think that's absolutely what Rover was all about. It was making a great quality family car, and I think the Tourer makes it. This is obviously the saloon model, but I think the saloon is a bit more about class and refinement, and I know that's a frowned upon subject today, but there still is a class thing in all of this, and we buy cars based on the brand, etc. So I still think deep down Rover was trying to be that middle class brand again, that poor man's Rolls Royce. So what's this car like to drive? Sizing, it's actually not so bad. It's not huge, it's not that wide, it's a really good size saloon. Oh, there's another 75 Tourer, literally right there. That's brilliant. Someone for my age obviously doesn't meet the intended age range of this car. It was obviously developed for somebody a bit older, and I know you're going to say you're just an OAP. Actually, I've always loved Rover. I had the 45, got the TF now, and there's just something, I don't care that this makes me look like an old man. I know I'm a young guy, but this car is just comfortable, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being in your 20s and wanting to be comfortable. Part of me was debating whether I wanted to go for the leather seats or the velour, and I'm glad that I've got the velour because they're so comfortable. In summer, when you've got the air conditioner on, they cool, they breathe, you're not hot in them, you get in them, you're not going to burn yourself on them. Even better in the winter, they heat up as well. You don't need heated seats, you don't need those extras, and this car doesn't obviously have those extras. There's plenty of options and extras and bits and bobs, and this car has some bits cut out of it to save costs, which is fitting because this car is a 2003 model, so reflects the time when this is post Project Drive. Project Drive was an initiative by MG Rover to try and skimp on the pennies and make something a bit more affordable, or sell something at the lower cost but still say it's the same car. But you can tell, I mean, there's some elements. The key, for example, should have had an embossed Rover logo, and it doesn't. It's minor things, nothing that's going to change the world, but as time progressed, especially with the facelift Mark II model, which I despise, I think it lost a lot of its original character more than anything. You had a range of engines. In 1998, when this car was released, I believe it only came with the 1.8 K series and the 2 litre KV6. As time progressed, they thought, okay, we'll add a BMW diesel engine in, and we'll also add in, we'll increase a 2 litre KV6 to a 2.5 litre KV6, we'll improve it, and good runs they did. I think 2.5 litre is definitely the one to go for in that sense. Mark 1. There was also, in the MG range, they had that Mustang V8, which I would love to drive. I think that would be an absolute hoot. So driving this on the motorway is a great experience, and I'm now on some open road in Scotland, and what's it like? A bit wallowy, a bit heavy. It puts the power down, and it's even got a sport button, and we'll put it into sport just now. There we go. Sport button should really just be recalled waste the fuel button, because all it does is hold the gear for a little bit longer. There's no real dynamic change to it. Holds you in a little bit longer. Maybe the throttle response is just a little bit neater, a bit quicker. The turbo kicks in a lot quicker by the feels and things, but don't expect too much from it. It's just the same as putting your foot down and hoping for the best. The only issue that I personally have with this gearbox is it can be a bit notchy, but I think that's because the solenoid in this is about to go. Common issue. Again, the only issues that I've had with ownership of this car have been common issues. What's that really? Let's be honest. So that's a good segue into actual cost of ownership. So I've done 6,000 miles in this car. I bought the car with 84,000 miles, and it's now up to 90,100. And what's it been like to own it? Has it been expensive? Not really, to be honest. The only things that I've really had done to it was I had it serviced. When I bought it, the thermostat was gone, but I got that back in the price because I bought it from a dealer, and I was like, listen, the thermostat's gone. Thermostat went. It's needed 2 new rear bushes. It's had a bit of welding done to it. Welding is age related. I really don't care about that, to be honest. A bit of welding done to it, and that's about it. Back brakes. I bought new tyres for it. Didn't really need them, but I went through a pretty big pothole and it damaged one of them really bad, and a bit OCD about it. So 4 new tyres. 6,000 miles. They've been great in this car actually. On New Year's Eve I did 200 miles, and it took me there and back. It took me to where I needed to be. I think it was Edinburgh actually. And then taking everyone home and all that sort of stuff, and I live a lot further away than everyone, so. But actually, you know, you turn the key, it starts. I mean, there was one day it didn't start, and it was a battery. An old battery. It was sitting for a good 3 weeks during the start of the lockdown, so really, can you really demote it for a battery going flat? No. So I guess a talking point of our last review with the MG was how this car makes you feel. And this car is actually quite special for me because it's always been a dream of mine to own one of these cars. This is honestly really cool. I don't care if I look like an old man. I think what this car makes me feel like, and I think that's what's really important when you buy a car, is how does it make you feel. And it made me feel incredible. I sat in it, I was like, wow, this is really good quality. It actually feels really nice inside, and it's comfortable, and sure, it's a bit bigger than what I would normally drive or want to drive, but I like it, and it's really practical as well. And this car as well, especially in this copper leaf red, I just love being in it, and the satisfaction of being able to park your car, you know, lock it, turn back, and then have to double take on it and think, that's a nice car, that's incredible. I think I'm just old beyond my years. Sure, the suspension could be a little bit softer, I'm not going to lie to you, it could afford to be just slightly softer. It does ride the bumps really well. There's some moments it hits it, especially in the city, when you're driving slow, and it hits it and you're like, nah, this is not a nice place to be. Some plastics in the car are a bit nasty, and they do break quite quickly and quite easily, so repairing them does take a bit of time. And finding parts in this car can be difficult sometimes, but actually, for the majority of the time, every time I've needed a part, I bought it from a breaker, so it's not been an issue. The car makes you feel good. It's cheap to run for the age of the car, the size of the car, the cost of the car. You can get pretty good ones for £500, no problem. Higher mileage, sure, but one that's loved and cared by its past owner. These cars nowadays are kept on the road by true fanatics, true carers of cars. And I'm part of the 75 and ZT Owners Club, and they're full of information and even actual good repairs as well. Things that Rover just never did because it was out there with their time. Some real quality control stuff has been fixed, and you know, you can repair them, get them done cheaply, and it's just a great place to be in. That's all you need. I mean, as a daily driver, if you were a businessman or an old man or me, you're a bit lazy, you like comfort, bit fat, this is great. It doesn't feel cumbersome to drive, and mine doesn't even have any assistance like parking sensors as an extra, so very impressive, very cool. So I'm going to try and think of a piece to end this on. Obviously, last time we had a poem, a love letter. I'm trying to think of something to say about this car now. Give us something to end on, a nice note about this car. I like it. I like the TF. I love it. It's got its issues, but I really don't care. It's like the Grand Tour almost. Let's use an automotive analogy. Let's go with that. It's like the Grand Tour. I love the Grand Tour. I think the trio are hilarious. They're really good fun to watch. They're really watchable, and they're controversial. But you put up with the controversy because they're so entertaining. In such a PC world, that's a really big feat, to be honest. Like, congratulations, I'm impressed. I am. If you can be that controversial and still be successful, damn. I mean, you can even punch a producer and still have a career. Obviously that's sarcasm, by the way. Like the TF, it's lovable, but also there's a lot of bad points to it, but you just get over them because you enjoy being in the car. And I know a lot of people say that this car is just a bit Werther's, whereas some people would want fizzy cola bottles. Who cares about what sweets that you choose, you know what I mean? I enjoy Werther's, but I'm not an OAP. Same difference. I like fizzy cola bottles as well. I love sporty things. I'm a young guy. But I appreciate when something is classic, something is special, and this is what we're going back to. This is one of the most significant cars in British history. For the English motoring, this is so important. This was Rover's last attempt. And you know what? I think they succeeded. They built a car that they wanted to build, and it was of its time. It reflected the past with the P5 and the P375, the original 75. Reflected a good time with them and tried to bring them back, and for the most part, it feels great. I think, like many British things though, this car made all the marks, the right noises, ambitious, but utter failures. I'm going to end it there, but I'm going to just, if you're looking at something like this, if you're watching this video, you might be an enthusiast, you might genuinely be looking at something to buy. If that's the case, if you want something that's good for the family, reasonably economical, not that expensive to run, then go for the 75. But if you're a true enthusiast, I wish you all the best, and I hope you're enjoying your 75 as much as I am, because this is only the start for me. Goodbye.